Cool. Alright, so welcome back to my channel, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it has been a hot minute since I filmed, so this whole filming thing is very strange for me. I'm still kind of getting my head around it, but yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I really, like I said, I really appreciate it. So I'm coming at you guys with a how to maximize on your earning potential video. And the whole kind of topic surrounding money and earning and how much you're on is a bit of a taboo subject in the West. So I'm going to try my very best to approach this topic with a little bit of sensitivity. I don't want to come off as boastful in any sense, so I'm not going to discuss how much I'm on, but I will kind of explain to you guys the range and how much I've kind of jumped really briefly. Okay, so just to quickly kind of outline, I'm going to give you guys a really quick introduction on where I've kind of come from in terms of my background career-wise and how I feel I've managed to get to where I am, just using kind of 5 top tips. Obviously every single person's circumstance is different, and this depends on what sector you will end up working in. So I'm going to use these tips and kind of, they're quite generic, like they're not specific to any sector, I don't think. So I'm just going to try my very best to explain those to you and explain how I felt as though they've helped me career-wise. So let's get straight into it. Right, so just to quickly outline what it is that I do. So I'm currently a store opening project coordinator / a second line support analyst. So I graduated in 2011 with a first class degree in computing and business. And then from there I ended up working within the company that I worked for throughout my throughout the duration of my degree. So I worked for a retailer, and back then, whilst I was on my degree, or whilst I was working towards my degree, I was a sales assistant. And then as soon as I graduated, like a month after I graduated, my manager realised how much spare time I had and was just like, hey, well, we have a supervisor opening, I think that you're more than capable, do you want it? So I was like, yeah, do you know what, why not? Like, you know, I might as well. I felt as though at that point I was kind of leading others in a sense, which is kind of what a supervisor does anyway. So I was like, okay, do you know what, let me just go ahead and take that. So I ended up being a supervisor for a year post-graduation. And if you asked me a year after, so if you asked me in like summer of 2012, no, what am I talking about? I graduated in 2014, I'm sorry guys, I'm so off with my dates. I graduated 4 years ago. So if you asked me in the summer of 2015 whether or not I felt as though the year was a waste of time, I'd probably say yes. But now looking back on it, it really wasn't. Like, I definitely developed myself, and I developed my people skills, my leadership skills, and just my basic understanding of life, like of how to work with people, which is so cool. It's so important that you understand how people are in the workplace, and just understanding different types of people in the workplace as well, and their capabilities, and how that might impact your performance, or how people who are senior to you perceive you. So like it was such a cool part of my growth of, like, you know, and where I am today. So I'm 110% happy that I stayed on for a year. So if you're kicking yourself in the arse post-graduation and thinking, why am I still working in a sector that that I don't want to be in, don't kick yourself in the arse. Try your very best to find something that's within the sector that you want to work in, but at the same time embrace it and do the best that you can. Always do the best that you can. So whether that be taking up extra responsibility or more responsibilities, or just performing basic tasks to the best of your ability, do that, right? Because believe me, long term it will make other people see that your potential. It will make other people see your potential, and they'll believe in you. And that's kind of one of the tips that I want to give you guys. But I'll feed into that later. I don't really want to expand on that right now. Yeah, so I graduated with a first in computing and business in 2014, and then I worked in retail for a year. And then I managed to get an opportunity to work in head office, doing some work experience. And I'd done that for about a year, give or take. yeah, I'd done that for about 3 months, give or take, before I was eventually offered a full-time opportunity. There was a little bit of, there were a few issues surrounding that. It wasn't as smooth sailing as I'd hoped it would have been, but it worked itself out in the end, and I managed to get a full-time position as a first-line support analyst. So yeah, so I'm not going to really go into what it is that a first-line support analyst is. I'll go ahead and maybe just leave a brief description of what it is down below for those who are interested. But it's ultimately where your first point of contact in IT. So if there's an issue, then it's more than likely that the users within that company will have a telephone number. This was internal users, by the way, so all people in head office would have this internal number that they could call, and we were also supporting the stores as well. And they just call us and we try our very best to troubleshoot and try and resolve the issue. If we couldn't, then we'd go ahead and pass it on to a second line. In brief terms, that's ultimately what a first line support analyst does. Cool, so I'm just going to quickly talk through 5 top tips that has helped me to maximise on my earning potential. It hasn't been, you know, really straightforward, and it's definitely things I'm still learning. This is something that I've kind of picked up on. These are a few things that I've picked up on along the way, so I want you guys to understand that, like, I'm not some kind of specialist who's, like, you know, certified in finances or anything like that. It's just, you know, me just kind of speaking from experience. So number 1, letting people know your intention. So if you go into the workplace and you start off in an entry-level position, then make sure that you let other people know where it is that you want to be in the next few years. A lot of people, if they're a good manager or a leader, they're going to ask you anyways. If they're not, then they might not. They want you to stay in the same post forever, then they're not going to ask you. But just try your very best to vocalise it when you have your one-to-one or your probation meetings, or maybe wait after probation. But if you have like your one-to-one personal development meetings, or your appraisal meetings, then let them know where it is that you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years, or even the next year, because a lot can change within such a short period of time. So I think it's very important to outline what it is that you want to do over the next. For me, the core of this one is you obviously want to make sure that people know what your intentions are, because if something was to come up in the next few years after maybe you had even left the company, which is what happened for me, then at least you can get hit up with the message that where someone's just like, you know, Viola, I know that in the past you were looking at this, or if you were still working for that same company, oh Viola, I heard that you were looking for this, did you know there's an opening for it? You know, vocalising what it is that you want is so important, and, you know, don't have this expectation that things are just going to drop into your hands, even if you haven't told people what it is that you want. It's almost like that conventional girlfriend-boyfriend relationship, isn't it, where you expect your man to understand what it is that you want by reading your mind, right? Number 2 is being positive in the workplace. Like, make sure that you're encouraging and you radiate positivity, because nobody wants to work with someone who has attitude problems. Nobody wants to work with someone who is moody and isn't uplifting. And I know that it can be really hard, especially if you're still relatively like entry level, and, you know, entry level roles I feel are so operational. People don't realise how hard it is that you work when you're at that level. Or I think people who are senior forget how much or how hard you work when you're at that level. Because, you know, you have all of these first point issues flying at you, and you're so much more operational. So I think it's important to just remember to uplift yourself in some kind of way. 3, not burning your bridges. So again, I left the company that I worked for and came back, and I was only able to do that because I didn't burn my bridges. I stayed in contact with certain people, and certain people thought of me, and so they invited me back for an informal interview, and I managed to get an opportunity from there. So just to give you a kind of brief outline in terms of how much I've managed to, how much my earning has grown. When I first started, I was on a relatively low number as a first-line support analyst, and from there I've managed to increase it by, I want to say 13,000. 13,000? 15,000. I've managed to increase my salary by, well, it's actually 14.5. And for me, that's relatively impressive. Like, that's really impressive. I'm pretty proud of myself in that sense. So yeah, like, not burning your bridges is a core part of that one. Like, making sure that you stay in contact with relevant people. Don't use people, but stay in contact with people who you know are relevant and who have the potential to make an impact on your life. For being able to vocalize your salary or negotiate your salary, such a big one. In your interview, make sure that you bring it up face to face, and do it with confidence, not with arrogance, but with confidence. Make sure that people are aware of how much it is that you want to be on, and that you're not gonna, you know, take anything less than that. I think the best way to approach it though is by showcasing a range. So by saying that, you know, I don't want to take any less than this amount, but you know, I'd be happy if I was on this amount. Showing a range, showing that you are flexible and that you are capable of using your mind. But I read this Forbes article and it was so useful. It just briefly outlined a few tips in terms of what you do before an interview. And one of them was making sure that you've done your research in terms of how much you should be on. So, you know, in life it's not good to compare yourself to other people because everybody's different, everybody's walk in life is different, everybody's journey is different. But it is important to understand how much you should roughly be on. You don't want to go into a role not knowing how much you should be in, especially on those applications where it says competitive pound. What exactly does that even mean? You want to make sure that you're going in there knowing how much you should roughly be on, because I feel as though I'm really rushing this video. I'm really sorry guys, I just speak really quickly. Yeah, leave a comment down below if you feel as though I speak really quickly, I'm sorry. No, but yeah, I feel like it's important to have confidence when negotiating your pay, and just going with that range and knowing how much you should roughly be on. Otherwise you kind of are walking into an interview relatively blind, not really knowing what it is that you're signing up for. And let's be realistic, pay is a massive part of why it is that you seek out a job to begin with. You're trying to maintain a certain lifestyle, you're trying to earn a living, and the only way that you can do that is making sure that you're on the salary that you should be on. My final one is reviewing your salary. So when you do have these review sessions, making sure that you come back and review it and discuss it with your manager. You know, I feel as though I should be on maybe like £5 more or £3 more. Is there anything that you can do about it? Because if you don't vocalise it, it won't happen. Like, it will only happen yearly. I think your salary needs to increase yearly by law. I'm not actually too sure on that, but I think your salary will increase by a certain amount each year. But if you don't literally sit there with your manager and say, you know, I feel I'm not very happy with the amount that I'm on at the moment, can it be reviewed in any way, then that will help. It starts off with you. It starts off with you saying, actually no, I deserve to be on a little bit more. Obviously go in with, you know, go in supporting yourself, go in backing up why, like, you have to be able to justify why it is that you deserve to be on a little bit more than you are currently. And don't go in demanding anything, but just let your manager know your intentions and show them your potential and how hard you are willing to work in order to justify the amount that you're going to be paid. So yeah, I hope that you guys kind of found this video a little bit useful. For me, out of all of them, I think the biggest one is probably not burning bridges, because connections is so important, and it's not always about, you know, what it is that you know. Sometimes it's also about who it is that you know, and people can seriously help you out if you just let them know that you know your intentions from the very beginning, and you kind of have this kind of ongoing relationship with them. It can help you out long term, believe me. I can vouch for that big time. So yeah, I hope that you guys have kind of found some kind of benefit in this video. I apologise if it was a bit all over the place, but it's just that I really want to get a lot. I wanted to get a lot out, and I don't want this video to be too long. I have a feeling that it's going to be very long.
I don't know how I'm going to edit it. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah, I'm really back. I'm really happy to be back on this platform. And yeah, I want to come at you guys with another video. Maybe like a haul or something. I'm not too sure. Because I've done quite a bit of shopping as of recent, so I might just come at you guys with a haul. Just showcasing what it is that I've bought. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Make sure that you subscribe, because, you know, my subscriber count at the moment is pretty sad, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could support me. And like this video if you like it, and also if you want me to talk about anything else, whether that be career related or just, yeah, like any other topics that you guys feel like as if you kind of want to hear me discuss, please leave it down below, because I'd be more than happy to review it.